The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
We just found out that one of our rescue pets, blue pet with a head the size of an alligator, is having puppies coming up in March. And Chris and I are very excited. It's closest to a grandpa that I'll ever be. And Chris is so excited because he loved this pet tremendously. We hated to give it up. He almost didn't give it up.
I fought it. But
now, Kenny, let me stop you there real quick before I forget.
Sure.
When I was on this Google thing, whatever it's called, Google Hangout, trying to get on the line.
Yeah.
There was like a picture of Jeff, various pictures.
Okay.
I suggest you go back, Jeff, and maybe Kenny can help you out, and you eradicate at least 2 pictures. One of them does not shed you in the most manliest of lights.
Oh,
it's probably like really old pictures. I couldn't tell you the last time I uploaded pictures on that thing.
yes.
Yeah,
Jeff is the technical control over here. He's the one that does all this. We just sit here in front of the cameras. So
yeah.
I have not seen these pictures.
Oh, you must.
From what you told me, it sounds like I may not.
So let me ask you a question, because I didn't know really much about you, Kenny. I had heard about you and all that.
Yeah.
But so this is very interesting to me because, you know, your boy Jimmy Cornette, who I worked with an Impact for a while.
Yeah.
Like you guys were boys, and then he's always been mad at Vince
For 41 years.
How long were you guys friends?
41 years.
Wow.
Until a few months ago.
That's crazy, bro. That just really is crazy. And then,
Yeah, I agree with you. It's crazy.
He's an entertaining guy, though.
He is that. I think we can all agree on that part of it. But no, he was extremely pissed that I came over to work with Vince, and he was doubly pissed that I fired his talk show host for being an ultimate douchebag. And he went.
Which one?
Brian Last.
How about Alice Radley?
Oh God, yeah. I was there for those days as well. And MSL, was that the other guy's name?
MSL, yeah.
What do you have any history with MSL?
Yeah. He had a little bit of heat with me because he would mark out too much for himself, but we're cool. Yeah.
He does mark. I'd never ever heard of him, but then again, you didn't really know much of anything about me. But
yeah,
he really would go on about himself quite a bit on those shows. So yeah,
we're good now. I just, you know, like, when stay in your lane, you know, don't try to appear what you're not, especially, you know what I'm saying?
You said that exactly how we handled Joe Cronin and Brian Last. We just, all we wanted them to do was just stay in their lane.
Right.
And,
who's Brian Last?
Jimmy's current talk show host.
Okay. And what's his background?
Chris?
He did announcing on a Dennis Corleuzza show for was it the Brian Hill Memorial or the Eddie Gilbert Memorial?
The
Eddie Gilbert Memorial.
Eddie Gilbert Memorial, 1997.
And he's a Mart kid. His mom paid Vince and Vito LaGrasso to do his birthday party in the 90s.
Paid him $5,000.
Why is Jeff smiling?
No, it was his bar mitzvah.
And Vince wasn't even in the wrestling business back then, wasn't he? Just
he did the radio,
the radio show, yeah.
But yeah, they got $5,000 of Brian Last money. But no, we only did 2 shows with Brian.
Kenny, you know what I always say? I've always said, why even come up writing up any wrestling scripts when the best stories are behind the scenes? The only problem is that people figured out what degenerates we are. They never watch our product. But,
well, they're finding that
no,
out.
you know why I thought that? I'm going to tell you why I thought that, because do you remember like 2 weeks ago? Yeah. And I don't know exactly who did it first, but it was like, I think like one of Jeff Jarrett's daughter threw like shade on one of like Kurt Angle's daughters or Karen Jarrett's daughter. Did you see that?
Yeah, I
Chris
saw it on Twitter.
I did not.
Yeah, some people talking about it.
Right. And I was like, you know, here's just another example. you know, of just how wrestling just writes itself, you know, and like even the thing with you and, you know, Jim Cornette, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, me and Jimmy, and of course me and Vito have had our own issues that,
and now Beefcake and Hogan.
Vito? The guy with
Beefcake and Hogan have beef.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Over Beefcake's wife. Apparently Hogan's been hanging with Beefcake's ex-wife or something. They had a whole Twitter war on it.
Yeah,
I saw that.
He likes other people's wives a lot, apparently. It might be an illness that he could get WWE to treat him for, maybe.
Oh, Big Vito, the guy that's Vince's friend?
Yes.
Okay.
He and I have had some serious issues. And, of course, Vince amplifies that to the nth degree for the sake of the show.
Right, well, because people like contention. You know that, Kenny. I mean,
trust me. Yeah. Trust me, after hanging out with Cornette for 41 years.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And, but now...
Who am I telling, right?
Yeah. So,
right.
So me and Jimmy got hot that I fired Brian last, and then me and Jimmy yelled at each other over why I fired Brian last. He wanted me to get rid of Chris and Maya from being on my shows. They were killing the ratings. They're killing this.
Who?
We didn't have any
me and my girlfriend.
Chris has been doing my podcast with me for 12 of the 13 years I've been doing them. Maya's been doing them with me for over 3 years since she got here from Germany. And
so you've probably been doing it longer than Colt Cabana?
Oh yeah.
We were long before Cabana.
We were way ahead of him. I was ahead of Cornette. I was ahead of Lanny Papa was ahead of us though, wasn't he?
Yeah,
but I don't think he still does them anymore.
No, and
did you know about this podcasting history, Jeff?
No, because I didn't really get involved with podcasting, even listening to it until I got hooked up with Vince. So all the older stuff I had never heard.
Yeah,
this was kind of what if you remember a series of podcasts by a group called Who's Slamming Who, that's how I got in. And they had Lanny Poffo and John Cena's dad and Iron Sheik and eventually Jerry Jarrett came aboard, and he came aboard because he didn't know if me and Cornette were shooting. Jimmy came aboard a year or two after I did.
Yeah, because he saw that you were starting to get sales off of it. And he didn't want to be left behind.
He saw that I was selling a lot of merchandise because we were, of course, both at OVW at that time. And he saw that I was getting a lot of merchandise sales, which was relatively new. I mean, none of us were really doing that yet. So I'm selling DVDs, mainly DVDs back then.
Yeah.
And then eventually it led into Beats by Bolin headphones, which was Chris's idea that he was sure would not work. And then it worked even beyond belief. And then we come up with the T-shirts and the hoodies and the hats and the merchandise thing just really took off. And it's been basically my source of income since 2008, 2009.
Yeah, thereabouts.
And I was making a hell of a lot more money doing podcasting and selling merch than I was doing OVW television shows while we were under contract with WWE. And so Jimmy called me an idiot for 2 years, and I can't believe you're doing this, and I can't believe this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy has a podcast on Who's Slamming Who. So he and I are feuding with each other. Jerry Jarrett comes aboard because he's just blown away that he can't tell if me and Jimmy are shooting or not. And so now people are confused on whether me and Vito are shooting or not. Well, I can assure you we are.
What is your problem with him?
Oh, they haven't really wanted me to expose my problems with him yet.
Okay. We've had buildups on our show too.
Basically, if you have been in the business as long as you have, you're bound to know the same that I do.
Right.
And I am just not a person that stands for the person that he, at least, because he says he's changed now.
Right.
But the person that he was is not a person that I can stand beside. I had no idea he was going to be a part of those shows. And then when I show up to do the Raw review show, there he is. Well, I had no idea that he was doing those shows. He was doing something else. And so I went ahead and got through that show. And then others had come forward.
But the first show went smooth, though, that you and Vito were on.
The first one did. And that was where I showed that I could be a professional and get through this. But I thought it was the only one I was ever going to have to do with him. And then the next thing, he's on the next show, and then he's on the next show. And I'm going, well, if he does this part-time, as he says, why is he showing up on all the shows that I do? And Vince asked me to come and do these with you guys, and I was happy to do so. Well, I won't say happy because that means I now have to watch 5 hours of Raw and SmackDown every week, which I'm not particularly.
Bro, let me tell you, I don't know if you've heard when Disco's on the show, Vince's show.
Yeah.
Okay, he hooked me up to something that will make your viewing, you know, how shall we say, for your viewing pleasure. They have this thing now. It's just like 20 minutes, and it's a recap of the whole show. And it's just it's actually a good show. If the show was 20 minutes, it'd be great. But and it saves you the commercials and all the bullshit entrances, and you know, it's just like the best
so
part.
it gets all of that out of there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I DVR.
That's how I watch it now.
Well, I DVR them and then speed through what I don't think anybody wants to hear anything about.
Right.
And I think Russo does the same thing, or Mr. Russo, because we're both well into our late 50s.
Right.
And so I need to find what you found, because that sounds like something I need to look into.
Yeah, Jeff, remind me, and I'll send you guys the link.
Okay.
Yeah, Disco actually hooked me up to that.
Yeah, he said something to me before, and I forget where he said it was because he never actually sent me the link.
I did see the Flair 30 for 30, and I was really touched by that. I've known Flair since 84, 85, and I'm amazed. I even put out a tweet about it. I'm amazed how little I really knew about him. I didn't know it was as bad as it was, as far as, you know, I knew that for the shows, the drinking, but I didn't realize the family problems and how bad the wife despised him at one time. And a lot of stuff came out in there that was really almost difficult to watch.
I knew a lot of that stuff, but the one thing that really touched me the most and was so telling, and it just showed how much he really loved and missed his son, is when he said, I should have been more of a dad and less of a friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he enabled him.
Yeah. Yep. He did, because Reed wanted to be just like him, but I didn't realize to what level Reed wanted to be like him. Because I of course worked with David here at OVW. I knew nothing about Ashley other than hearing about a story of her whipping somebody's ass in a parking lot somewhere before she was in the business. And of course, Reed, I knew had a hell of an amateur career, and that was really about all I knew about the kids. Another thing I want to touch on before I turned you and Chris loose on the Lucha, you and Cornette, if I remember correctly, didn't particularly get along real well, did you?
No, I don't think so. What happened was, you know, I didn't grow up wanting to be a wrestler.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So when I got into the wrestling business, I really didn't know anybody. You know, I had watched wrestling on TV here and there, and I kind of knew a couple names. But so when I got into the business, I had no clue who Jim Cornette was.
Okay,
You know
and I'm sure that burned him alive.
No, well, that's no disrespect. I didn't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so remember when they did that thing of Kevin Nash did that parody on Arn Anderson?
Oh my God, yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so then he put something like he basically insulted everybody in the group, and at the end he put something like, yeah, Konnan couldn't draw money if you rolled him in Fort Knox or something like that, you know.
That sounds like something he would say.
Right. And I was thinking to myself, and I'm going to leave all presumptuousness aside, was like, well, actually I am like one of the biggest draws in the history of Mexico, so I have drawn money, but I don't expect him to know that either. Okay.
Right. Well, of course. Yeah.
So I never took it personally from him. I kind of took it like, okay, they insulted my boy Arn Anderson, and I'm going to mess with all of them, because he didn't know me. He'd never met me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I've actually tried to get him on the show a couple times, but he hasn't answered me back.
Yeah.
But I like Jimmy. He's entertaining, and he just makes me laugh. I mean, I get along with him. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
well,
yeah.
I never dreamed anything would ever kill our friendship. He promised me that the Russo thing would not, because I had Russo on my show twice.
Right.
He lost his mind, didn't speak to me for a while, banned me from his show. And not to brag, but I am 5 of his top 6 rated shows. People like the banner between me and Jimmy, trying to figure out if we're shooting. And plus, they think we're both pretty funny.
Right.
But I even beat Jim. The only person I didn't beat in ratings on his show was Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right, well, I can deal with that. That's not a bad one to lose to. But when I beat Ross and Bill After and various others he's had on the show, I was pretty pleased with that. So that was part of the show, was me bragging about that and all that good stuff. And where was I going with this, Chris?
You and Cornette. Well, Cornette holds me responsible for breaking up the friendship. Which I had nothing to do with it. He just wants somebody to blame. He had made some threats towards Vince, and we had recommended Vince to get the law involved.
Oh, hell, I done forgot about all that.
Yeah, and he couldn't handle that, I guess. I don't know if it was too much of an insult to him or what it was. But
yeah. He didn't think we really did it.
Yeah.
We encouraged Vince to go ahead and take out an EPO for 2 reasons. One, Jimmy seemed to be going off the deep end, and because Vince now lived in Evansville, Jimmy was considering going to Evansville to settle up with Russo for costing him 2 jobs over 18 years. And then when it was evident that maybe Jimmy wouldn't do it, now he's recruiting people to go down and settle up with Vince or possibly kill him or what have you. And he's giving me calls in the late evening telling me how he's going to pull this off, how he's going to get by with it. And I'm going, Jimmy, this is idiotic. No, just because you're doing autographs somewhere, if you send somebody down here to kill Vince Russo or beat him up, they're going to sing the minute they say, okay, who masterminded this? I said, they're going to rat you out immediately. I said, you're an idiot. I said, this is not going to work, and quit even considering it. No, Kenny, it's going to work. I got this.
This is an actual conversation between you.
Yes. These are actual conversations. And so it concerned me.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Is there at any point, because you've known him for 41 years, where you're thinking, okay, this is Jim being Jim and just working me?
For the first 17 years, yeah. I thought he was working everybody. I even told him, I said, you know, I know your health, you know mine. You don't even want to fight me, and I'm as bad a health as I've ever been in my life. Russo will stomp your ass. I said, so don't think you're going to go down there and fight Russo and he ain't going to defend himself. I said, you do this because Vince is a Christian and Vince doesn't want to fight. And it's well documented that me and Jimmy are atheists, and but I consider myself a loving atheist. I try to help those in
a loving godless man.
A loving godless man, as they say. But Chris
would that be Jeff? You're laughing again. Would that be a correct depiction of himself?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
You believe? Well, you got to remember, Jeff has only known me since I started coming on doing these shows.
Right.
All right. Give it time.
But there are people that know my history and know what I'm about. And now Jimmy, on the other hand, is an atheist. But how much charitable work, other than donating some money out of those EPO copies, do you know Jimmy to actually do?
He's raised money for the crusade, but his father
was VP of that.
His father helped found that. Yeah. Generally not much. He's Jimmy's a pretty self-involved guy.
If there were homeless people at the end of his street, would he go down and give them a meal?
No, he'd probably order them.
He would have them bulldozed or have the police shoot them on the site as trespassers.
Wow, there is heat between you guys. That's awesome.
Well, I'm not even sure that's heat.
That's not heat. That's just the truth.
A very aggressive man, Konnan. He's
and I want to give you a compliment because, like you said, you probably don't know a whole lot about my history. I didn't know a lot about yours other than when you got to WCW.
Right.
But I used to hate you, and here's the reason why. You were a natural born heat getter. I don't know what you were in Mexico, but you were a natural. And and I'm not doing this trying to be insulting or anything. How tall of a man are you?
5'11".
5'11". Okay, I'm 6'1". So normally when I ever see a man that I got a little bit of height on and a little bit of weight on, I could probably take him. You know, I played the cowardly manager forever, but I know who I can handle and who I can't. And I knew for a flat out fact, even though that you weighed much less than I did, that you were a couple inches shorter than me. You have the appearance of a man who can't be whipped. You don't look like you would feel pain. I can't pull your hair. You don't have any. And you had an arrogance that even surpassed mine as a manager.
Right.
And you just had that natural heat with me to where I don't like him. And if we got in a fight, I can't whip him. So now I don't know how most of America perceived your heat, but that was your heat with me. And anytime anyone can get me to buy into their character and going, that son of a, and you did that very well with me.
You know, I always believe, and I think you know this, having been in the business so long, the best guys are the guys that immerse themselves totally into their character. And I 1000% believe in that. And so that's what I try to do.
Well, you can't. To me, you can't do this business unless you believe. And I learned this from Jerry Lawler. Every promo I ever saw him do, I was convinced he believed every word he said. So, and that's one reason with the stuff with me and Vito has caught on, is I know they believe every word I'm saying. And with Vito, he's a part of it. And I guess they believe, and especially when I get him mad, I think they believe what he's saying, and that's why this stuff. And people are typing, "Oh, this is more entertaining than Raw." Well, it's more entertaining because they can't figure out if it's real or not, and that was part of it with Konnan, or Konnan. I should say it right because Chris informed me that people are going to think I've got Conan O'Brien coming on the show.
So yeah, it's Konnan.
When we've actually invited Konnan on the show, so I need to get the name pronounced right. But and then I was wondering about your heat with Jimmy, and apparently it's even far less than I thought it was.
Right. I didn't know him when he made that comment. He didn't know me, and that's how I took it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I'm a little upset that he won't even bother to come on and do your show if you reached out to him.
Yeah, I did reach out to him, and then who was it that told me this? It was Bruce Pritchard. That's what was. I was like, "Yo, what's up with Jimmy? He's not answering me." He goes, "Oh, he doesn't want to answer nobody because of It was right around the time that you know, him and TNA parted ways.
Oh yeah.
And so he says he doesn't. I go, bro, he's entertaining enough. I don't need to talk about TNA with him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the TNA thing, because I think he had really gone on the air quite a bit on his own show and had bragged about all the changes he was going to make, how the viewerships are going to go up, the cult of Cornette. Oh my God, we're really going to make some changes there. And then as soon as that series of TV tapings was done, he was done. And of course, Jarrett was out as well, and it just kind of made him look real bad. He talked a lot of shit and then was not able to back it up. But Jimmy, oftentimes, and it's just kind of who he is, he doesn't handle negativity real well, and never has. He doesn't handle. He's far more like Donald Trump than I think people realize. Even though he claims he's so anti-Trump, Jimmy is a lot like him. He doesn't handle criticism real well at all. Part of the reason he's so upset at Chris, because Chris. We did a show once where we talked to Chris. I swear we're going to let you talk lucha before this thing's over.
We'll get to it.
But
hey, entertain the people. That's all they care about.
But
yeah,
Jimmy,
Konnan, I don't know if you know, but Jimmy is Chris's godfather.
Yes. So there's something for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So.
And but Jimmy, just like Donald Trump, cannot handle criticism worth a dime. But we know every promoter that he steals his ideas from. And we know that he likes to recycle them a lot. And I used to get on Jimmy all the time about originality. I said, the reason that people like that chose Russo over you twice, Russo is creative. Russo comes up with that no one has seen or heard of before. And at least it's different.
Yeah, whether it's good or bad, or whether it works or doesn't, at least it's new. It's something, they're trying something.
And there used to be a rule in wrestling that if you're going to do an angle, that you do it again 7 years later, or certain bits. There used to be the old thing with Jackie Fargo, to where they'd act like Jackie wasn't on the show that day. And Tojo was out there, well, I'm all by myself. I don't have anybody here. None of my guys are here. Their car broke down in Blytheville, Mississippi somewhere. And then, of course, they would run out of the shower and save the day. You know, they were there all along.
But let me tell you something, Kenny, when you bring stuff like that up, I was talking today on my own podcast with Disco about this. Everything was so much better written back in the day and more smartly written. But one of the main reasons was because you only had 1 hour to fill.
Yeah.
So even though WWE has all these hours, I always make I always say, well, I'm pretty sure if they gave Games of Thrones another night, they'd still have a great show. So just hire better writers. You know what I'm saying? And I can't believe how bad their product has gotten. But back then, stuff was so smartly written.
Well, and on top of that, Konnan, we did not have a roster of 90 that we had to keep relevant on television. Back then, you was lucky what? I remember the Louisville Gardens having cards that had 12 wrestlers on it for the whole show. Right. And there'd be mixed tag team matches, and there'd be 6-man tags, and there'd be a battle royal. And you got the most out of those 12 that you had on that show that night, because there might be 12 more in another town on the split cards. And I'm sure you worked quite a few split cards in your day.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a whole different bird right now when it comes to trying to put on entertaining television. And you're right, if Game of Thrones was on 2 nights a week, or Fear the Walking Dead, or what have you.
Walking Dead can barely manage to be entertaining now.
That's why they got 17 million viewers, Chris. Shut up.
It's jumped the shark.
So I hate my son. So that's my view on that as far as why the shows are so bad. Number one, you have people that don't really know anything about wrestling writing the shows, And you got to remember, I come from an era where they didn't have writers. You just walked in and Jerry Lawler or Jerry Jarrett or whomever the promoter was told you what to do, and you went out and did it based on your abilities. And they normally didn't, if you couldn't carry the load, they wouldn't give you the load.
But the thing is, the difference is like the locker rooms back then were like full of men and that were seasoned and had been around for like 10 years. That's how you made it in another territory. And you know, now there's so many young people that, you know, been in the business 2 or 3 years, and you can't just handle them that responsibility. Hey, get yourself over. Most of them don't know how to.
Right.
You know, they don't even have a gimmick. You know, these back in the day, you know, when they brought people in, even if you look at the WWE back in the day, like Davey Boy Smith, Junkyard Dog, you know, all these people had been somewhere else before and gotten over before they got the WWE.
Yeah. They knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And you had the confidence in yourself just because you were working Memphis, Tennessee. Well, okay, well, you're going to be in Dallas, Texas tomorrow night. Oh, I've never been to Dallas. How do I get over? Well, and my only experience at that was when I'd been here for so long in Louisville, and I didn't travel much. I didn't have to. I had the luxury of everybody coming here. But they sent me to Philadelphia to do that memorial show, and I had 5 cracks to go out there and cut promos trying to put myself over. And had never done it before. And then Jimmy called me when I got back. He says, only you could get over with those smart marks in Philadelphia. They hate you. And you not only got heat on yourself, you got heat on Fox 41 and the Big 58, which were the 2 TV stations I was on. And I made those stations bigger than the USA Network and TNN. They got so sick of hearing from me and about those 2 local TV shows I was on that I was trying to make those a bigger deal than the USA Network and TNN. And with that particular crowd, it worked. But yeah, you figure out how to get over with whatever crowd you're in front of. And that's what you and I, and me as a manager, you as a wrestler, and various others do. But you're right. When you give it to a James Ellsworth or some of these people that have barely been in wrestling, and then ask them to go town to town to town, because if you've noticed, some towns react one way, some towns react another. And when I know you're not over is that when you can't get over in Georgia or Houston or Arkansas or Memphis, when you're going down there and the crowd is turning on you based upon your gimmick, then it might be time to try a new gimmick, because those southern towns are normally a little easier. The East Coast can be brutal. The United Kingdom can be brutal. But if you're not getting over in the South, it might be time to look at what you're doing.
Okay, I need to stop you one more time, Kenny. Jeff, I just enlarged your video, and I noticed you're in that same room that you're always in with the little toys, okay? Explain to me what the toy is underneath of the little doll, the orange doll that's underneath the Battlestar Galactica to your left.
Right here?
Yeah, what is that?
That is a pop figure of a character from Orphan Black, which is a TV show that used to be on BBC America. It's now over.
Okay, so the thing behind you, is that a Ninja Teenage Mutant Turtle?
Yes.
Who's behind him?
I got some starting lineups from when I was a kid. Mark McGuire, Mel Hall, Ken Griffey Jr., Roger Clemens.
Good.
All right, some good players. Let me see. Anybody else back there that I might want to understand what's going on? These, on top of that, what are those, books or DVDs?
DVDs and Blu-rays.
Is it true that you now have a girlfriend?
Yes.
And you did not have to drive 4 hours for
correct.
It. Like,
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
This is in-house in the city.
In-house.
Okay. Is she into any of this behind you?
Actually, I am watching Battlestar Galactica with her currently, and she likes it.
Okay, that's good.
The originals?
No, the remake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did you think of the original?
I never saw the original till after I got into the remake first, and then I went back and saw the original. It was okay, but I like seeing where the roots came from the
remake is better.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was hard for me to see Lauren Green do something other than ride around on the Ponderosa. Lauren Green didn't belong on a spaceship as far as I was concerned.
Yeah. What was his name? Uncle Ben or something? What was his name?
Ben Cartwright.
Ben Cartwright.
Uncle Ben's on the cover of a rice box.
Yeah. But Ben Cartwright, let me see if I remember. Ben Cartwright, the Big Hoss.
Big Hoss,
what was Michael Douglas's name?
Michael Douglas wasn't on that show.
What the youngest guy, the son.
Little Joe.
Little Joe.
Michael Landon.
Michael Langdon, that's right.
Yeah, Michael Landon, okay. And then you
Great
got
memory.
You got one more.
Not the Chinese cook, right? Did they have like
that was Hop
Hop Sing? Yeah.
And I used to tie old westerns into my promos at OVW, and
Yeah.
Hop Sing actually made one of my promos about him being sexually violated by some angry Indians in the territory.
That's awesome. Okay, I remember the other brother, right? The middle brother.
No, you now need the oldest brother. You got Hoss. Little Joe was the littlest. Hoss was the middle. Who was the oldest brother?
Right. He was the one that had like the least personality, kind of like the pretty boy. Yeah. What's his name? He was like the Larry of the group. You know, like Bo and Curly were really funny, but Larry was so.
He was Adam Cartwright. His real name was Pernell Roberts. And what doctor show did he go on to do where he played this arrogant balding doctor?
I don't know.
I didn't exist.
Some of the fans will write in and let us know.
It's a shame that any of them are going to write in.
It wasn't Marcus Welby, but Pernell Roberts went on to have a very successful doctor show for years and years and years. Now, were you a fan of the Rifleman, Lucas McCain?
No, I really never really saw that. Is that from the 70s or the 50s?
Oh, that's 60s. That's very early 60s. And
wasn't there one with Chuck Connors?
That's Chuck Connors, who also played Major League Baseball. He played for the Chicago White Sox, and he also played NBA basketball. And not a lot of people know this, but Chuck Connors was one of the first known gay actors that didn't hide it. And if you,
I gotta tell Disco Inferno so he'll know his history, because he falls right in. He falls right in that lineage.
And my other favorite was Gunsmoke.
Oh, that was great.
James Arness, Matt Dillon, and Festus, and even going.
You know what I used to actually watch? Jeff, do you ever see Gunsmoke?
No.
Oh my!
I've never seen Gunsmoke.
Okay. Great Western.
Yeah, I love Gunsmoke. Yeah.
Those are like the old school shows that still would stand right now. You know what I used to watch a lot? It was a great country comedy, Hee Haw.
Oh my God, I love Hee Haw.
What a great show.
Picking and Grinning.
Yeah, but what a great show. Yeah, Picking and Grinning. What a great show, right?
Really was. It was something that we never missed as kids because we only had 2 channels, and you either watched Hee Haw or maybe Sanford and Son might have been on the other channel on Saturday nights. And Hee Haw, which you've seen a few of them, right?
I have. I've seen Hee Haw.
What did you think of that show?
I think it's funny. Yeah, my girlfriend moved here from Germany 3 years ago. She was born in Brazil, grew up in Eastern Germany, and she's been learning all about like these weird American cultural things. And Hee Haw to her is just the most baffling.
Bro, Hee Haw's great. Let me tell you why it was great. It had like comedy. It had music. It had super hot girls.
Oh my God! Well, a lot of them were Playboy centerfolds at one time.
Were they? Yeah.
Not Lulu. Lulu didn't make the centerfold.
Yeah, but they had some good comedy bits. That was a good show. Let me tell you the whitest show back then to me.
Okay.
Did you ever see the Lawrence Welk show?
Oh my God, that is the whitest show ever produced for television.
Yes.
If you can name me anyone of any other race that ever saw that show, I would call you a liar. But apparently you did see a few of them.
Yes. Well, it was back then, like you said, before cable.
I got even maybe a whiter show for you. Do you remember Mitch Miller?
No.
Oh, Mitch Miller definitely goes back to the early to mid 60s.
Right.
And it was a variety hour, very similar to Lawrence Welk, but Mitch Miller led a choir, I guess. And it was a bunch of men who sang choir songs for an hour once a week on television. So Google that and see if you can find any a film of the Mitch Miller show. I haven't seen it since probably the late 60s.
Well, since just the fact that I was in the 60s, which obviously predates the 70s, which is when I saw Lawrence Welk. Right. I'm sure it's super white.
And Lawrence Welk was on in the 60s as well, if I remember correctly.
Really?
And, of course, you had your old talk shows back then, very white talk shows. Merv Griffin.
Right, Merv.
For Merv Griffin. And, see, I'm leaving someone out. There was Merv Griffin and one other that was big back then. And then, of course, that eventually led into Phil Donahue, leads into Sally Jesse Raphael, which I saw.
They look oddly similar if you really side by side.
Which is scary in its own right. And I did not know Ric Flair did the Sally Jesse Raphael show and that she had the nerve back then to ask him if wrestling was fake. That was just something you didn't do back then, and you normally paid the price regardless who you were.
You think he would have choked out Sally Jesse A
lot of us were wishing that he would have, and
would have been great TV.
Now, what city primarily were you raised in? Konnan?
Miami.
All right, now, hey, buddy, I see you wearing the San Diego Padres.
I live in San Diego right now.
Are you a Hurricane fan?
Humongous. I used to work at the Orange Bowl, bro. I used to get my hustle on down there. Yeah.
Oh my God, I got to go to the Orange Bowl once in 1984 to see the Dolphins play the Steelers. And that was the year we beat them to get to go on to the Super Bowl, only to be embarrassed by the Redskins. But no, I've been a diehard Hurricane fan since probably the Howard Snellenberger era. I mean, we were around.
That's when it started.
We were around back in the day. We even talked. What show was we on, Chris? Where we talked about how they became the U.
Wasn't that one of our last shows or our last Facebook Live? I think.
Yeah, it was the last Facebook Live we did. We talked about how the Hurricanes became the U. But man, I
live in Louisville, right?
Louisville, Kentucky,
Bro, that football team had and you're gonna know what I'm talking about. You guys had so much heat with me because for a couple years you kept taking some great Miami players, including Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, we got Bridgewater, and also we had a great game up here that really put Louisville on the map. I think Louisville might be the only team to ever lose and move up like 7 spots in the rankings, and it was back in the early 2000s. We went to the Orange Bowl. And if whoever number 1 was for Louisville back then, had he intercepted a late Miami pass, we would have won the game. But we didn't, and we lost by a couple of points. But Louisville moved up 7 spots in the rankings by playing Miami close in the Orange Bowl. That is how dominant Miami was back then. Yeah. Of course, I cried like a baby the night Flutie beat us. I'm sure you saw that.
Of course, the Ohio State game.
Oh my God! When the flag came about 8 minutes after the play, they had to pull the players back.
We should have never lost to the Catholics either.
Chris,
bro.
That's what got Chris hooked on the Hurricanes, is when he saw the ESPN 30 because he wasn't really that much of a sports fan at all.
Yeah.
And then he sees the ESPN 30 for 30 of the U, and he says, "Dad, I get it.
Yeah,
the Hurricanes are the biggest heels ever in the history."
Right. And the thing is that Miami was like had that swagger, and Luther Campbell from I don't know, Uncle Luke.
Yeah.
He was on the sidelines, and they were bringing strippers to them, and they were like going out with all the big drug bosses. Like they were local celebrities. You know what I'm saying?
Back then, they said the Hurricanes could get in clubs that the Dolphins couldn't get in.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of bets going that if they said the Miami Dolphins, not even the best team in Miami football-wise, a lot of people, the Hurricanes could beat them.
And Jimmy Johnson let them do their thing. He was like, "You guys are winning. Go out there and do your thing." And it was just great, Yeah.
Well, what was it? He wanted the coach of Notre Dame wanted Jimmy Johnson saved for him.
Yeah.
For the Catholics versus Convicts game. And I was amped up for that. I actually watched that while I lived in Atlanta, and we went for 2, we went for the win, but good God, that was a tough one to take. And of course, when we beat Oklahoma for the national title, when Oklahoma went for 2, and I think we were ranked 3rd, number 2 got beat, and that moved Miami into the national championship. But were we boring the hell out of you, Jeff? Or do you know anything about Hurricane football at all?
No, I was always a Syracuse fan, so anytime Syracuse played Miami, they usually lost.
Then have you?
Syracuse upset somebody this year.
They did early, and then they kind of fell apart. I
want to say Penn State, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a good team. But like when I was growing up and we had decent teams, we still would always, like with the Marvin Graves and Donovan McNabb years, like we would still lose to Miami bad.
Louisville looks like they're finally clicking in late. What's our quarterback's name, Chris?
I should know it. He won the Heisman.
He won the Heisman.
Lamar Johnson.
Yeah, Lamar. Yeah,
Lamar Jackson. Yeah, Lamar
Jackson.
Just lit up whoever it was we just played.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's. But they're saying he might be the 7th quarterback taken in the draft. What 6 other than Baker Mayfield might people consider better than him? And I don't
like that guy Josh Darnold from UCLA.
I don't see it.
Yeah, no, Lamar's I'm picking first. I would probably pick Lamar.
Well, even if you didn't use him as a quarterback, he's an athlete.
Yeah,
you can put him at wide receiver. You can put him at running back. You might not be able to make tight end, obviously.
I'd put him exactly where he is at quarterback.
That's what I would do. That's because Michael Vick admitted that he's better than I was.
Yeah.
Michael Vick come out and said that. I'll take my chances with Lamar Jackson any day of the week.
Yeah, he's a stud.
So how did you like the recent back-to-back sweeps down? And we had our troubles this week, but we pulled it out late with Virginia. And I had a feeling after the spanking Louisville put on them, Virginia was going to be ready. But what was your opinion of the Notre Dame game? Just the total ass whipping we put on them.
I never ever expected that. And then
I didn't either.
Do you know Pat Simon Diamond?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's a humongous Irish fan. I'll give you an example. We were in Europe a couple years ago on some tour, and like there was no internet in the hotel, so you had to walk a couple blocks to this building to get on the internet. And it was like 3 a.m, and I went in there to listen to the Miami Hurricane game, and I hear another game like a couple booths down, and it's Simon Diamond listening to Notre Dame.
Oh my Lord! No, I had no clue that he was a big Notre Dame.
Yeah, so I let him have it.
Well, Chris, I guess we're gonna have to turn you loose on some lucha questions, because this was gonna be all lucha show.
Yeah, he's like, well, I don't know much about Konnan. I don't know much about lucha libre. You guys will talk. You guys are actually hitting it off.
It's all good. You can get 2 shows out of this.
Yeah, split it up.